Welcome to the Curated Pod. I'm your host, Aiden Ayers. We have a great show for you today. We're going to cover the latest news in business, tech, and politics. If you're looking for a quick and easy way to stay informed on the latest events, you've come to the right place. Let's get started. We have just seen an incredible advancement in medical technology that truly shows the power of artificial intelligence. The University of Michigan and the University of California, San Francisco have created Fast Glioma, a remarkable AI tool that detects brain tumor tissue during surgery in just 10 seconds. What makes this especially important is its 92% accuracy rate, which is significantly better than traditional methods. Let me explain why this matters. Current methods miss tumor tissue about 25% of the time, which often leads to additional surgeries and worse outcomes for patients. Fast glioma only misses high-risk tumors 3.8% of the time. That's an incredible improvement that will save lives. The technology combines microscopic imaging with artificial intelligence foundation models. Even in its rapid detection mode, it maintains 90% accuracy. This will make surgeries more efficient and reduce costs by preventing the need for repeated procedures. Now, I need to point out that we should be cautiously optimistic. The system isn't perfect, and we still need long-term studies to validate these results. But this is exactly the kind of innovation we need in healthcare, practical applications of artificial intelligence that deliver real results. This is what happens when we let American innovation work without excessive government interference. We're seeing genuine progress that will help patients and reduce healthcare costs at the same time. What SpaceX just accomplished is absolutely remarkable, and the mainstream media is completely missing the significance. SpaceX completed back-to-back Starlink satellite launches from both American coasts in a single day. 20 satellites launched from California, followed by 24 more from Florida. The really exciting part is that 13 of these satellites are equipped with direct-to-cell technology. This means your regular phone can connect directly to satellites without any extra equipment. Starting this year, you'll be able to text from anywhere on Earth, and by 2025, you'll have voice and data capability. While critics obsess over so-called space debris concerns, SpaceX has already thought this through. These satellites are designed to safely deorbit at the end of their life. This is American innovation at its finest. We're watching Elon Musk and SpaceX revolutionize global communications while challenging the telecommunications monopolies that have held us back for decades. The direct-to-cell technology proves that the free market, not government intervention, delivers real solutions. This could be our answer to fighting censorship and surveillance, providing communication channels independent of traditional infrastructure. This is exactly the kind of American technological leadership we need to maintain our global competitive edge. Let me tell you about something incredible happening in medical technology, and then we need to discuss the serious healthcare crisis. The University of Michigan and the University of California, San Francisco have created an artificial intelligence tool called Fast Glioma that detects brain tumors in just 10 seconds with 92% accuracy. Traditional methods miss about 25% of tumors, but Fast Glioma only misses 3.8%. The technology was trained on over 11,000 surgical specimens, which shows the incredible scale of this advance. Now, while we're making these amazing technological breakthroughs, we're completely failing in basic healthcare delivery. The March of Dimes just released a report showing our preterm birth rates haven't improved in a decade, staying at 10-40%. This makes me absolutely furious. The establishment keeps pushing government programs and Medicaid expansion as the solution, but clearly that's not working. What really bothers me is how the media and politicians use these statistics to promote more government control of healthcare. Then they look at the southern states, they've implemented specific programs aimed at reducing these rates, and they're still struggling. This proves my point that throwing government money at the problem isn't the end. Private sector, as shown by Fast Glioma, is where real progress happens. When we let American innovation work without excessive regulation and government interference, we get actual results. This is the direction our healthcare system needs to move, encouraging private sector solutions rather than expanding failed government programs. The numbers we're seeing in exchange-traded funds are absolutely staggering. ETF flows have reached $909 billion this year, and we're just $1 billion away from breaking the all-time record. The second half of 2020 has been the strongest ever recorded at $489 billion. And here's what's concerning about all this. While institutional investors are seeing these massive gains, average Americans are getting crushed by interest rates. Senator J.D. Vance recently pointed out something that should anger every single one of us. BlackRock and other large corporations are able to borrow money at rates between 5 and 7%. Meanwhile, hardworking Americans are facing mortgage rates significantly higher than that. Now, the financial establishment will tell you this is all about creditworthiness and risk profiles. That's nonsense. What we're seeing is the Federal Reserve creating a system where giant corporations can accumulate more and more assets, while regular Americans struggle to buy their first home. This is transforming us into a nation of renters, exactly what these big corporations want. And with December historically being the strongest month for ETF flows, we're likely to see that trillion-dollar mark broke. This is the direct result of policies that favor Wall Street over Main Street, and it's absolutely unacceptable. The latest updates on Trump's potential administration appointments are causing quite a stir, and for good reason. Matt Gaetz is being considered for Attorney General, which is exactly the kind of bold move we need to drain the swamp. But of course, the establishment Republicans are already trying to block it. Senator Shelley Moore Capito from West Virginia is refusing to support Gaetz. He's giving these weak non-answers to the media about how he'll have to go through the Senate process. Well, now she's got a primary challenger named Derek Evans who's calling her out for being a rhino. Good. We need to hold these establishment politicians accountable. And then we've got Kevin McCarthy. Remember him. The former speaker is out there saying Gaetz won't get confirmed. This is exactly why we removed McCarthy as speaker. He represents everything wrong with the establishment GOP that's trying to block real America First candidates. But here's what's really interesting. There are rumors circulating about Trump's pick for FBI director. Now, I can't reveal who it is yet, but according to Nick Sorter's reporting, this pick is going to cause absolute meltdowns from the liberal media. And honestly, that's exactly what we need. Someone who will actually investigate the real corruption in Washington, not just serve the deep state agenda. The battle lines are being drawn. It's clear the establishment is terrified of true conservative fighters getting into these positions. They should be. Voters have spoken, and they've rejected soft-on-crime policies in a massive way. Let me tell you what just happened in Los Angeles County. George Gascon, a progressive district attorney, just lost his election by 23 points. This is the same county where Kamala Harris won by 30 points. So this shift is absolutely enormous. And it's not just Los Angeles. Progressive district attorneys lost 13 out of 25 top races across the country, even in heavily Democratic areas. The people are tired of seeing criminals walk free while communities suffer. During Gascon's time as district attorney, he reduced penalties for low-level crimes and made changes to cash bail for misdemeanors. The results were predictable. Violent crime increased, with homicides involving guns going up 20% higher than pre-pandemic levels. Meanwhile, in Arizona, we're seeing what real law enforcement looks like. They just passed Proposition 3 on 13, which establishes lifetime sentences without parole for anyone convicted of trafficking minors. This is exactly the kind of serious consequence we need for serious crimes. The American people are waking up. They're rejecting these experimental progressive policies that put criminals first. I expect we'll see more progressive district attorneys voted out of cities continue dealing with the consequences of their failed policy. Pendulum is swinging back toward common sense law enforcement, and it's about time. The numbers I'm about to share with you are absolutely infuriating. The federal government just self-reported an astounding $235.8 billion in improper payments for fiscal year 2020. Let that sink in. That's more money wasted than the entire budget of any state except California. And it gets worse. $1.3 billion was sent to dead people. You heard that right, dead people. Another $171 million in benefits went to prison. This is the kind of grotesque government waste that makes my blood boil. But finally, we're seeing some real action to address this corruption. The Trump administration is bringing in Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to lead a new Department of Government Efficiency initiative. Musk himself called the magnitude of waste staggering, and he's absolutely right. They're even reaching out to Ron Paul, one of the strongest voices against government waste we've ever had in Congress. Now, the mainstream media and bureaucrats will tell you this new department is just advisory and can't make real change. But they're missing the point entirely. Having high-profile outsiders expose this massive waste to the American people is exactly what we need. The swamp creatures can't hide when there's this much sunlight. The administrative state and their media allies will fight this tooth and nail because they profit from all this waste. But with Trump back in office and his team leading the charge, we might finally see some real accountability in our bloated federal government. It marks a significant shift in the media landscape that I believe is worth celebrating. Both Joy Reid and Don Lemon, two of the most divisive voices in mainstream media, have made significant changes. Joy Reid has officially deactivated her X account, and Don Lemon is now out of his position. This isn't just about two media personalities changing position. This represents a broader transformation in how Americans consume and engage with news media. The mainstream media's iron grip on controlling narratives is finally starting to crack. Let me be clear, for years these individuals have pushed extremely biased narratives that have done nothing but divide our country. The fact that they're both stepping back on the same day is not a coincidence. The American people are tired of being force-fed, politically charged content masquerading as news. Our predictions from last year are coming true. Traditional media figures who refuse to adapt to the public's demand for honest, straightforward reporting are losing their platform. We're seeing a shift toward alternative media sources that aren't controlled by the same handful of corporations. This is a positive development for our national discourse. As more mainstream personalities either adapt or exit, we're going to see more diverse voices emerge. The days of a few major networks controlling what Americans think are numbered. And personally, I could be happier about it. The Israeli Defense Forces have just conducted major airstrikes across multiple locations. And let me tell you, this is exactly the kind of decisive action we need to see. The IDF has effectively destroyed over 140 Hezbollah launchers in southern Lebanon. These aren't random strikes. They're precise tactical operations targeting specific military objectives. What's particularly significant is the Damascus operation that eliminated members of both Palestinian Islamic Jihad and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. This shows Israel's capability to defend itself against threats from multiple fronts simultaneously. Now the media wants to focus on the civilian infrastructure near these strikes. But here's what they won't tell you. These terrorist organizations deliberately position themselves near civilian areas. They use places like Beirut Airport and residential buildings as shields. The Lebanese government is complaining about sovereignty violations, but when you harbor terrorist organizations like Hezbollah, you forfeit the right to cry about sovereignty. These operations are absolutely necessary for Israel's security. The precision of these strikes, hitting multiple strategic locations simultaneously, demonstrates incredible military planning and execution. We're likely going to see these operations continue and intensify. And yes, there might be retaliation from Hezbollah and their Iranian backers, but Israel has shown it's ready and capable of defending itself against these threats. This is what strong leadership looks like in action. The local landscape is experiencing a significant transformation, and it's absolutely fascinating to watch. Brandon Straka's hash walkaway movement, which started in May 2018, has proven to be more than just a temporary trend. Hundreds of thousands of people have left the Democratic Party, realizing the manipulation and control that's been happening for years. The latest example is Tulsi Gabbard joining Team Save America. This is a former Democratic congresswoman who's seen the truth about what's happening in her former party. She's made the conscious decision to align with conservatives who actually care about American values. But let me tell you something that really makes my blood boil. At Cerritos High School in California, we're seeing exactly why people are walking away from the left. A teacher actually had the audacity to call a student's MAGA shirt intimidating and a symbol of hate. This is the kind of institutional intimidation and censorship that's pushing rational people away from the Democratic Party. This kind of reaction from the left isn't surprising anymore. Their intolerance and attempts to silence conservative expression are backfiring spectacularly. More public figures will follow Tulsi's lead, and more Americans will continue to walk away from this progressive ideology that's trying to destroy traditional American values. The evidence is clear, and the movement is only getting strong. Let me tell you about some incredible developments in private transportation that showcase what happens when government gets out of the way and lets innovation thrive. AI is taking transportation to new heights, literally with their flying taxi service set to launch in 2026. Their Joby Soar aircraft will transport 4 passengers plus a pilot, flying at speeds up to 200 miles per hour. Think about this, a trip from downtown to the airport in just 10 minutes. That's what happens when you have a business-friendly environment that embraces innovation instead of suffocating it with regulations. Speaking of innovation leaders, Tesla is making major moves in Europe. Their Cybercab is touring 6 major cities, including London, Berlin, and Amsterdam through December. And here's what the mainstream media won't tell you. Tesla's supercharger network just ranked highest in the UK for customer satisfaction. This is what real infrastructure development looks like, driven by the private sector, not government bureaucrats. Now, some critics say Dubai's 2026 timeline is too ambitious. But you know what? When you have a pro-business environment that cuts through red tape, amazing things happen fast. Sure, opening Tesla superchargers to other vehicles might cause some congestion initially, but that's how the free market works. It adapts and improves based on real demand, not central planning. This is the future of transportation, folks. Private companies leading the way, creating solutions that actually work, while government takes a back seat. That's how real progress happens. The numbers I'm about to share with you are absolutely staggering, and they should make every American taxpayer furious. The federal government just self-reported $235.8 billion in improper payments for fiscal year 2020. Let that sink in for a moment. That's more money than the entire budget of every single state in America except California. And if that wasn't bad enough, let me tell you about the bloated White House staff under the Biden administration. They're spending $225 million on payroll with over 500 staffers. That's the largest White House staff since Richard Nixon in 1971. What exactly are all these people doing? Now, the defenders of big government will try to tell you that this massive staff is necessary for modern governance. They'll say some improper payments are just clerical errors, but I'm not buying. Not when we're sitting on a national debt of $35 trillion. This is exactly what happens when you let Democrats control the purse strings. They're spending money like drunken sailors while our economy hangs by a thread. We need serious conservative leadership to get this under control. We need dramatic spending cuts, and we need them now. Otherwise, we're heading straight for an economic disaster that will make the 2008 financial crisis look like a walk in the park. Germany is making an absolutely ridiculous decision that's going to hurt their own people. They've just announced their state-operated gas terminals won't accept any Russian liquefied natural gas. Can you believe this nonsense? Their economy is already struggling with sky-high energy costs, and now they're voluntarily cutting off a major energy supplier just to virtue signal. This is exactly what happens when you let ideology drive economic decisions. The German people are going to pay more for energy. German businesses will become less competitive. And for what? To make some politicians feel good about themselves. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, we're seeing some interesting developments. Iran is claiming they're open to resolving disputes about their nuclear program with the International Atomic Energy Agency. But let me tell you, folks, we've heard this song and dance before. They'll say whatever they need to say while continuing their uranium enrichment program behind closed doors. On a more practical note, Qatar's leader is meeting with President Erdogan in Turkey. Now, this is what real international relations should look like, focused on actual trade and investment benefits, not political theater like what we're seeing in Germany. These countries understand you have to put your own economic interests first. Looking ahead, I can tell you right now, Germany's energy costs are going to keep rising. The German people are going to start pushing back against these policies when they can't afford to heat their homes this winter. Mark my words, this decision is going to come back to haunt. The left's climate agenda is reaching new heights of absurdity. Let me tell you what's happening right now. Sicily just experienced what they're calling catastrophic flooding, with a year's worth of rain just 12 hours. While mainstream media rushes to blame climate change, we need to remember that extreme weather events have always occurred. Now, here's what's really concerning. Biden's Environmental Protection Agency just announced a massive $900 per ton methane emissions tax starting 2024. This is nothing but a direct attack on American energy independence. Representative Greg Murphy is absolutely right. This will drastically raise costs and crush investment in our energy sector. And get this, Israel's climate envoy is now pressuring Trump to stay in the Paris Agreement if he returns to office. They're pushing the same old line about clean technology opportunities, but we've seen this story before. The Paris Agreement is just another globalist scheme that puts America last. The timing of all this is not coincidental. With the 2024 election approaching, the Democrats are using climate policy as a political weapon. These regulations will drive up energy prices for hardworking Americans, all while countries like China continue to pollute without consequence. Mark my words, if these policies stay in place, we're looking at skyrocketing energy costs that will hurt American families and businesses. Republican states will fight this methane tax, and they should. This isn't about protecting the environment. It's about control and redistribution of wealth. Sydney Sweeney just exposed something that's been obvious to many of us for years. Hollywood's complete hypocrisy when it comes to feminism. In a recent Vanity Fair interview, she straight up called out the entertainment industry's fake support for women, saying none of it is actually happening. And you know what? She's absolutely right. These Hollywood elites love to lecture everyone about female empowerment. But behind closed doors, they're tearing women down. It's all virtue signaling, plain and simple. But here's where this gets even more. While Hollywood pretends to champion women's progress, we're seeing a serious demographic crisis in America. Our birth rate has plummeted to just 1.6 children per woman. This is way below what we need to maintain our population, and it's going to have massive consequences for our economy. The Social Security system is already struggling, and with fewer workers contributing to support retirees, we're heading toward a financial catastrophe. Sure, left will tell you this is all about economic factors like student loan debt and housing costs. But let's be honest, it's also about the progressive agenda, pushing women away from traditional family values. Now, some people suggest we can fix this through immigration or government handouts, but that's just another Band-Aid solution from the same crowd that created these problems in the first place. If we don't address these issues head-on, both the fake feminist agenda in Hollywood and our declining birth rates are going to cause serious damage to our society. We need to start having honest conversations about these challenges, not just repeating empty progressive talking points.